Okay. If you are struggling cash flow wise, then you can break it down because you don't get the bonuses, but it still allows you to get involved, get the education. Okay. So back to our safe, secure portfolio plan. We're diving down into the simple selection system again, and specifically we're looking at the rules for family let. Now, when the Insight Group, I mentioned right at the beginning, they started primarily as a done-for-you service, so completely hands-free. You have capital, they go get your portfolio, they find the properties, they do everything. So they do the negotiations, they make sure they're below market value, they do tenancy find, obviously they're a letting agent as well, that's a part of their business. They do everything, so it's completely hands-free from your point of view. These are the rules they follow. So they have their own property sources they work with very closely, they have all sorts of other people that try and bring deals. Doesn't matter who it is or where the deal comes from, whether they're out on the road finding them themselves, which a big part, there's a team in the company, that's all they do. They're off finding deals all the time. These are the rules they follow. So if you're doing family let, these are the rules you follow. Does that make sense? Does it make sense, yes or no?
Yes.
And if you're doing HMO, some of this transfers directly to any deal, any strategy. Some of it you'd have to change a little bit tailoring. But just understand, whatever your strategy, you must have a set of rules.
Oh.
No rules.
You're going to show this? You're going to show an HMO one as well?
I'm not going to show HMO one today, we haven't got time. Like, we've only got a day. And I know that if I tell story after story, we'll be here for 3 days. And my wife, you know, as much as she likes me out of the house, she would like to see me occasionally. You know. Always a blessing. All right. So let's start with this. Capacity. So this part I think is probably very straightforward. We'll jump into some more numbers as well. So I'll probably refer to my notebook so I give you the right numbers. I'm not great at holding total specific numbers in my head. So capacity, we want 3-4 beds, obviously, as I mentioned before. That's the first rule. So remember, it's like we want diamond properties, the best of the best. How do you create diamonds? Under pressure. So this is under pressure in the sense of it's deselection. We are not, our focus isn't, let's find a property. Our focus is, we want a reason to dismiss this property. Does that make sense? So therefore it is under pressure, and therefore what we're left with are the diamonds, the best ones. With financial freedom, let's say you get to a point where you've got somewhere between 50,000 or more coming in passively every year, on average, then you want the best of the best in your portfolio to give you that. What you don't want is a so-so investment. What you definitely don't want is one that just breaks even. You never want that. So capacity is important. So 3 to 4, not 1 to 2. We talked about this before. What does 1 to 2 attract? It tends to be young professionals and such, like lots of transiency. There's a cost, obviously, to every time you turn over a tenant. On average, it's about £1,500 a year with all the accrued costs. If you've got 10 properties and you're doing that for every property each year, that's 15,000. Over 10 years, that's £150,000. We don't want that. So we want to make sure that we've got the right people in. So 3 to 4 in terms of the type of property you're looking for. Now this relates as well. Like when I started, one of the things that I did to begin with, and I found this very useful even as an education in its own right, is to go into estate agents. Now what I've noticed is with people, I've done both sides of this. So I've seen people go into estate agents and say, I'm a property investor, what have you got? Who's the investor? The estate agent. Because that's what you basically say. You basically say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'd like to have a property that has some semblance of being an investment. What do you think? That's really what you're saying. Whereas I go into an estate agent and say, I am looking for 3 or 4 bed properties to let to families. What have you got? Does that make sense? I dictate the strategy, not them. Because I've spoken to estate agents, they love it when people come in and do that. You know, I'm a property investor, what have you got? They say, oh, this is great. And they pull out which properties? The ones they can't sell have been sat on the market forever, and they're thinking, oh, here's some dumb person. Maybe they'll be stupid enough to buy it. That's all they're thinking. So, you dictate. So 3 to 4 bed, you go in. All right, so capacity is the first rule. If it isn't 3 or 4 bed, it's gone. Secondly, city. City matters. And just to reinforce, we said we want lifers, remember? But we want family. Families are going to be there for life. Any niggles, they'll tend to fix niggles. I'll give you an example. I got a property and they are lifers. And I got an email from the wife in the property. She emailed me and said, I wanted to speak to the estate agent, the letting agent, and then they said, oh, just drop in the message. I'm quite open with my tenants. I said, look, if you've got any deals, drop them in. My PA will check them and they'll forward them. So she sent this in, and she said, oh, we want to know, can we put fitted wardrobes in bedrooms? So I was like, in theory that all sounds great because you're adding value, like you're making the property look better, you're going to stay longer because obviously you're more committed to nesting, it's being your home. So I went back and said, yeah, how are you thinking of getting that done? And the answer that came back was, well, my husband is a professional carpenter, that's what he does for a living, he's going to do it all. So I'm like, yeah, go for it. So they put in these beautiful fitted wardrobes into the bedrooms, it's like great. Fantastic. Yeah, and people, lifers will paint, they'll decorate, they'll do things like that because it's their home. So obviously a benefit to you in that respect. All right, city. Let's get into some numbers. So, for example, let's go with York as an example. If we go to York, 3-4 bed property, average price 150,000. Rental on that probably about £700, around that figure. However, a couple of miles away in Scarborough, I can get similar property for 75,000. So my 150 gets me 2. Rent on those be about, not as much as York, it's about 560 each. 2 560s, what's that, 1120? So 1120 versus 700. Which would you rather have? From a cash flow point of view, the 1120. So the city matters. That's my point. So we're looking at it in those terms. What I also know, because this is part of understanding the markets and which way they're going, is that York and Scarborough go up and down by about the same amounts. And York leads Scarborough by about a year. So in other words, if Scarborough goes up this year by, let's say, 8%, or somewhere around there, then next year, Scarborough goes up somewhere between 6 and 10. That makes sense? Because it lags behind York. And similarly, if York drops by 3% this year, then I know that next year, Scarborough will drop between 1 and 5%. And you need to know it at that level. So you understand the market.
And you're talking rent, not value of property.
No, I'm talking value of the property.
Okay.
Yeah, no value. Yeah, because you look at it in terms of, the national average. Actually, this is the next C, we get into capital growth. National average is 7.9% per year, but it's an average. Does that mean every single year it goes up by 7.9%? No. Some years go down. Like if you looked, since the Second World War, property prices have done this. Which is the overall trend? Upwards, supply and demand. We're what, 1 million properties short per year at the moment? So supply and demand. And then there's usually a correction of some sort. And then it then starts going up. Is it a quick one?
Inflation corrected. The property has gone up.
Inflation corrected, yeah.
No,
So,
this is not.
No, this is overall value.
Yes.
Yeah.
Inflation corrected, it's only gone up by about 1.5%.
We'll have to talk about that later because I'd like to, yeah, okay. But it's gone up. That's the important part. Actually, this time somebody asked me about Brexit before. Brexit. What's going to happen? Who knows? Nobody knows. But what does it cause? Uncertainty. What are humans wired for? Survival. What's the biggest threat to survival? Uncertainty. So whenever there's uncertainty, what do people do?
Nothing.
Let's get back in the cave. You ever seen that? What's that animated little film? It was very good. It's not called. The Groups or something like that. Not a Disney. Yeah, you've seen it. Absolutely, really good. So it shows. I think it's like a Neanderthal family, and then a Homo sapien comes along who's obviously thinking creatively and so on. But it's Nick Cage who does the voice of the father for the Neanderthal family, and he's very much like, no, get back in your cave, the light's going down, safe, secure, wrap it all up. We're wired for survival. Interestingly enough, and I find this quite interesting, is you're wired for survival, not happiness. Yeah. Happiness is down to you deliberately making yourself happy. You're not wired for it. Anyway, so nobody knows what's going to happen. But wherever there's uncertainty, here's what I've discovered over 20 years. What is there also? Opportunity. Anyone, his son's still alive, he's in government, he's been a bit of a pain in the butt for some people. Rees-Mogg. Yeah, so you love him or hate him, I've got no thoughts about it, but his father was the editor of the FT for a while. And so Lord Rees-Mogg as he was, and there's another, his partner, he's got an American partner, or had an American partner called Jim, his name escapes me, but anyway, the pair of them wrote a couple of books. They used to run an investment newsletter, I think they probably still do it, but I think the company still does, obviously Lord Rees-Mogg has passed away. And they wrote a number of books, and they used to talk about, one of the books, well worth reading, it's not an easy read, but it's worth reading, it's called Blood in the Streets. When's the best time to buy stocks? When the blood's running in the streets. So they show you the history of, and actually, in fact, this is completely off topic, by the way, but I think you'll find it interesting. The book, Blood in the Streets, written in the 90s. And in that book, they predicted what was going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years. They were spot on. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So you've got to read it. They talked about the rise in terrorism. Spot on. They talked about all of these different things in that book and how they were predicting it. As I say, it's not an easy read, so you might need to wrap your head around it a little bit, but it's definitely worth reading. It's a way of thinking. Does that make sense? It's a way of thinking which can give you great success. So it's well worth looking at in that terms. So anyway, blood in the streets. But like, for example, the Great Depression in America in the 30s, everyone talks about, there were people who were so despondent, they committed suicide, terrible, tragic, and there was people going, well, hold on a minute, great opportunity here. So they were buying stocks, which they knew had great value, at like a penny a time. And obviously when anything goes in cycles, you mentioned the Ceridian cycles before, didn't you? Everything goes in cycles, winter, summer, fall, and all of that. So what was going to happen? Well, it was going to come back out at some point. Depression's not going to last forever. So of course, as he came out of it, those people that had taken the opportunity while everybody else is afraid and uncertain, here's what I now know. Whenever there's a depression, a recession, or something like Brexit that caused massive uncertainty, there's a transfer of wealth from those who don't know what they're doing to those who do know what they're doing. So where do you want to be? Which side of that equation do you want to be on?
Very good question. So have you found some Brexit having an effect in your area?
Only, not personally, but I've got friends who've wanted to sell property, and I don't know why, but they wanted to sell, and there's like people looking at it going, oh, I'm not sure, I'm going to wait for Brexit because the properties could drop in price.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a nice idea, but even if on paper they do drop, why would somebody sell it unless they absolutely had to sell it? They wouldn't. So, to my mind, there's what people think is going to happen, and then there's going to be the reality of what actually happens, and either way, I'm prepared. Does that make sense? So that's all it's about. It's not, oh, doom and gloom, although of course as human beings, we will happily go to doom and gloom, because that's part of our survival wiring. We find it much harder to go, oh, it's all going to be rosy and grey. Anybody tell me, there's a London Evening Standard, there's a Birmingham, what's it called in Birmingham?
Evening Mail?
Evening Mail. It's a Birmingham Evening Mail. When was the last time you saw a headline that said, wow, the sun's shining, everything's great, the whole world's happy? Doesn't happen, does it? No, good news doesn't sell, bad news sells. So, city, so we already talked about city. By the way, I'm not suggesting everybody rush to Scarborough. The Insight Group buy about 450 properties a year for their clients. Out of 450, maybe 2 or 3 are in Scarborough. So it's not all about rushing to Scarborough, so please understand that. Capital, this takes us on to this, capital growth. National average, 7.9%. Does that mean it rises everywhere at 7.9%? No. But over time, yes. So we want capital growth, and we want, obviously, cash flow growth. So we want both on the table. So we start with capital growth, and we go, okay, are we going to get the capital growth we want? So then your question should be, well, how do I make sure I get great capital growth? So we have rules within rules. So let me give you this. First of all, your portfolio, start tracking it. So set up some sort of spreadsheet to track it. Now you model in advance. So you decide, okay, I've got a portfolio, and in your spreadsheet, you decide the figure you're going to model at. So the average, national average, 7.9%. I'm more cautious, so I don't predict my portfolio growing at 7.9%. I predict it at 5%. So I model everything on 5%. You might be more cautious. You might say, well, I'm going to model at 3%. That's fine. Because I want to track it because I'm looking for the triggers of when I want to take money out. Yeah? But I want to track it. So you decide where. I wouldn't do it at national average. I would be a little conservative. Or you might be more risk averse, be more conservative. That's fine. That's your first step. Secondly then, so we've got 4 rules within the rules. Number 1, buy in a town or a city, not a village. If you buy in a town or a city, you can 99.99% predict you're going to get the national average. Why would you not buy in a village? Too small, too few people. Too few people, so you've got microeconomic stuff going on. And let's say, for example, that's around Yorkshire and Lancashire, they're little villages where everybody's employed by one employer, one factory in the region. What happens if that one business goes out of business? What happens if they go out of business? The employment in the whole village is gone. Yeah, that's a problem. So avoid that. So you're looking at, and this is not hard and fast, but as a guideline, you want at least 100,000 population. Secondly, what did I say before? Who are we letting to? Young professionals or lifers? Lifers, family lets. So, therefore, think about their lifestyle. What do they want? Schools. Yeah, so your second rule is good secondary schools. Primary schools, I'm sure those of you, or our parents being parents, well, you're always a parent, you know what I mean, like young kids. You're more okay with moving your child from primary school to primary school if necessary. But usually when you get to like their secondary school education, it's like, okay, let's keep them settled. They can focus on, like my daughter's going through mocks at the moment. So you don't want to be disrupting all of that, you don't want to be moving it. And that's how people tend to think as families. So hence, good secondary school. So check Ofsted reports. Don't know how to spell it. So you want excellent or outstanding. So again, that gives you less transiency. Because otherwise you might find, they've got children about to go to secondary school. They go, we're going to move to put us in a region where they can go to a better secondary school. Thirdly, good public transport links. So they can get where they want to go, particularly getting to work and so on. And then also a good road network.
Paul, in what sort of ranges do people generally move into school? So you look at secondary school, how far away from the property?
From the property?
Yeah.
It's not definitely.
Yeah, it's catchments.
It
Yes.
varies.
Yeah.
Place to place.
Yeah, it's not, I don't look directly at, I just look at catchment. Yeah. But, that leads us nicely to rule number 5. Within 5 miles of the city centre. That's where you're buying your property. Bigger cities like Birmingham, Manchester, you can probably go to 7 miles at the most. But if you say rule is within 5 miles, so if it's outside of that, deselect it. Right, the next C. So we've got capital growth, what else do we want? Cash flow. So we're going to get good cash flow. So, a couple of ways. When it comes to cash flow, people tend to think in yields. So you know, like good yield. So like with the cash flow builder, the insight group that we do, you know, we guarantee like 8% yields. But the challenge with yield, there's so many ways of calculating things. It can be a little bit confusing. So from a cash flow checking point of view, this is the rule we follow. So let me show you this. This is all numbers. Let's say we bought a property, purchase price of 100,000. If we were getting £8,000 of rent out of it per year, which would be somewhere around 670 per month, then one way of calculating yield, rent on the purchase, that would give us 8%. Is that particularly helpful to me? No. It is much more helpful. Instead, I say, okay, rent. Actually, let me put a new page so you can see this. Then I don't run out of space. Rent. Let's say, keep the numbers a bit easier for me, 650. Mortgage, let's say it's 300. Maintenance, 80. Insurance, let's say 20. And then agency fees, let's say another 80 per month. So, obviously, why do you want an agency? Because you've got leverage, grows without you. So we take all that away, we've got about 170 per month in this example. That's the start. Everybody with me so far? Yeah, simple math. Okay. Now, this is past the cash flow checker. That's what we're interested in. National average for voids is 1 month a year. So we start with that. If we assume the property is going to be empty 1 month a year, which of course we're not expecting it because we've got lifers, but this is how we deselect. Now, I'll tell you as well, our done-for-you service, on average, we have a 98% tenancy rate. So it's like 1 week a year average across everybody's portfolio that it would possibly be empty. So that's a pretty good track record. But we go for 1 month. We model at 1 month. So we then say, this figure, 170, that's the important figure. 170 net positive cash flow a month. We're anticipating 1 month empty, so we got 11 months of 170. Make sense? Yep. Which gives us 1870. Here's what we're interested in. Is that figure, 1870, is it bigger than the rent? That's all we care about. Now in this case, the rent was 650. Is 1870 bigger than 650? Yes. In which case, it's tick. It passed our cash flow checker. So in other words, would the 11 months pay for the 12 months on its own? So in other words, would the property pay for itself if it was empty for 1 month? And to be more cautious in the mortgage, you might, for example, look at a 5-year fixed mortgage rate and do your calculation against that for the purpose of doing the cash flow checker. But when it comes to, if it passes everything and we say, yes, we're doing this, you might get a 2-year fixed rate, which obviously will give you more comfort in terms, so you're being more cautious in your deselection. You're looking for reasons to get rid of it than you would in reality when you actually buy it, assuming it's past everything. That's how we do it. So be cautious, don't use that. Okay, so again, just check that on your spreadsheet again. So that's the key. We're interested in, does this cover this? The whole point is, you know, you never want to have to put money into your property once you've bought it. You want it to continue to pay for itself forever. You never want to have to put another penny in. That's how we look at it. All right, so that's cash flow. Is this making sense, by the way? Check. Who wants to rent the property? Go to look, deals come across my desk, I'm looking at it. Who wants to rent it? I don't know. But I don't want to buy it and then discover nobody wants to rent it. Does that make sense? So I need to do a check in advance. So if it's a brand new area to you and such like, then you will do this on a regular basis. We run an ad. It can be in a local paper, it can be on something like Zoopla. If you get something like 5 responses to your ad, 60% typically you get 3 viewings. Out of 3 viewings, you get 1 person saying, yes, I'm interested. Do you want to be in that position? No. You got 1 tenant saying, I'm interested in your property. So you go, oh great, I've got a tenant. And then a couple of months in, they start giving you problems. And it's like, oh, what do I do now? And you have people going, well, emotionally, they're afraid of not having any rent whatsoever. So, well, I'll try and work with this tenant and keep them, because at least they're giving me something at the moment, even though they're giving me a headache. But now, of course, it's not washing its face. What we want is a surplus of demand. So instead, you want a minimum of 10 responses, ideally 20 really. Because then you'll get, out of that 20, you'll probably get 15 or so viewings. Out of that, you may get 5 or 6 people saying yes, they want it. That's where you want to be. You get to pick the tenant, they don't get to pick you. That make sense?
Actually, we got ads.
Sorry.
If we actually bought the ads, we would tenants beforehand.
Oh yeah, exactly that. So if this doesn't work, we don't get at least 10 ideally I prefer 20, but somewhere between 10 and 20 responses to the ad, I wouldn't go with that property.
It's probably also worthwhile looking at the marketing of who wants to rent and what is available to rent.
Oh yeah, you're looking at the area, yes.
In Coventry at the moment, a lot of the universities are selling all of their...
Oh yes, they dropped, yes.
And all of the rentals are all being sold.
Yeah.
So all of the student lets.
Yeah. But again, I'm not interested particularly in student lets,
No.
so I'm more in, but I get your point, yes.
What I meant was that if you're buying in that area, in the similar vein to that, it's worthwhile trying to understand
Yes, what's,
and walk in your area
Yeah.
to know how many properties are
Yeah.
allowed and how many
Yes.
have been there.
yes, and how much, yes, so that gives you an idea of demand. But for me personally, it's like I want to know myself. It's my portfolio, my investment, and from our insight group, it's our clients who will make sure that they're the right properties for them, they're diamond properties. So we always do this.
Oh, so you do that?
Yeah.
Aren't you in some ways lying to us? You don't want the property, you just put it down.
Yeah, so in which case we say it's not available yet, it'll be available in about a month to 6 weeks. Is that okay? So will you get some dropout on that? Yeah, you will. But what we've done is we've gauged demand. And then when you go back, you'll take their details, and when you go back, you'll still find there'll be people still left, and they're the ones that haven't found anywhere suitable since, so they want to come back and look at it. And then of course but then once you've got the choice, it's like, okay, I need references and such like. So as we've got our own letting agent, we do all the reference checks and so on. But you need to do that to check bank statements, that kind of stuff. But it's getting to that place. In other words, if you got one is the worst number in the world. And that's true in business. You run a business and you're on your own, you're self-employed, that's the worst number in the world. Get a partner. It's rare that in business, one person has all the strengths needed to build a successful business. Usually you have a partnership where one of you brings, right, Aaron, Mr. Detail, Mr. Thorough. Me, big picture, blue sky, creative. So check. Check. Yeah, it's a corny joke there, but we'll forget that. Well, it's more about, tenants, they choose you instead of you choosing them. Most people, how did they pick their wife? Because they chose them. Remember that the goal with this is that once you bought the deed property, you never want to put another penny in again. This is something you're holding for life, you never want to pay for it again. It will then pay for itself. Okay. So if it works, then obviously that allows it. Just quickly then, where would this never work? Like pick a city that this just wouldn't work in. London. But I say that, and it's got less and less, or maybe just people have not bothered coming to talk to me about it anymore, I don't know. But I've had people come to me saying, well, I bought these properties in London, I'm going to get great equity growth and so on and so on. It's like, yeah, that sounds all great. But is it paying for itself month by month? No. So you have to dip into your own pocket. Yeah. How many of those can you buy?
One.
Yeah, one at the most, probably. Because you're having to pay for it. You've got to fund it. And they don't think of that. I had a good friend of mine. He is actually very successful now. But when he first got into properties, oh, this property stuff, I've been successful in business. I must understand property because, and we've all done it. You know, you've been successful in one thing, you think you've got the Midas touch, you think everything turns to gold, and we all get slapped by God, like, really hard. Anyway, he got slapped. So this was going back 2007 in St. Petersburg in Russia. So it wasn't even in the UK. He's like, oh, no, we're going to go overseas, we'll get a much better investment. So St. Petersburg went through the same process that Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol did with all these apartments being built and so on. So he's like, oh, this is great, we can get so much more for our money at the moment. And he literally bought 20 off plan in St. Petersburg. One, I was like, what's the legal system like in Russia? That was like a concern for me. It's like when you even see these things, it's like Spain, like the number of people I've seen buying in Spain, and they built properties, and some of them bought them because they wanted to use them as their own holiday homes. Some bought them as investments, and then a couple of years down the line, all of a sudden the Spanish government's going, there was no planning permission for that property. We want it back, we want the land back. And it's like, whoops. I don't want a whoops. Does that make sense? So we bought all these properties in St. Petersburg, thinking, oh, they're going to go up so much by the time they're built. And they did go up a little bit, but none of them cash flowed. So all of a sudden, while he's trying to suddenly desperately sell 20, and not just him, other people, so now the market's saturated with all these new apartments, very nice apartments in St. Petersburg, and they're all trying to sell at the same time. The buyers are getting finicky, and obviously now it's a race to the bottom in terms of who's going to lower their price the most.
You see Googles everywhere?
Literally. Yeah, so we do the checks, we deselect. Okay, so it needs to cash. All right, now, last part of this is contingency. If you've got 100,000 to invest, don't put it all in the game. So the thing that we do, like if, as the Insight Group have done for you, if you're putting 100,000, or whatever you're putting in, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you're putting in, we always say, okay, keep 4.5% to one side. But contingency. So 1,000 clients in, not a single client has ever had to put any more money into their portfolio. Because we tell them and insist on this. So if you've got 100,000, put 4,500 to one side in a pot as a contingency, just in case. Like one of the examples of the reason this rule came about is, you know, we've all seen it, is let's say, like particularly coming up to Christmas, all of a sudden a boiler goes in one of your properties. And the tenants are like, oh my God, the boiler's going, you know, we need a new boiler. So all of a sudden you're having to fork out a chunk of money just before Christmas. And that might have been your Christmas budget. You know, so nobody wants that. Yeah, and we certainly don't want that for our clients, so contingency. So regardless whether you're with us or you're doing it with yourself or with someone else, make sure you follow that rule. Have a 4.5% contingency. Okay? And this is one of the reasons people who don't have that contingency, that's why they get to 3 properties and stop. Because the fear kicks in.